It's just 10 15 seconds.
Where I should be standing, just so this will fall because I still have to somehow see and change maybe at the corner. But for the live coding part, I can always take the comment. Okay, welcome to React Meetup number 3. Super excited. First of all, thank you very much to NetLife for hosting, sponsoring the event with venue, pizza, drinks. So that's great. Today we're going to have one talk from Mike, who's going to talk about React Native, and then there is Alexander, who's going to talk about server-side React. So that's going to be really exciting. Before we start, I'm just going to let Fredrik say a few words about NetLife Research as a sponsor.
Yeah. Close the door, maybe. Okay, welcome to us. We are NetLife Research. If you don't know us, we are like a digital design agency kind of thing. And we really like React and React Native, so really happy to host it. Just eat pizza and drink, and I think we have enough with us at the store earlier. So, yeah, and by the way, of course, we are recruiting. If you want to have us speak afterwards, just grab it.
And they also sponsored travel expenses for the speakers. So, yeah, some applause to yeah, so I'll just leave it to Mike for the first talk.
Awesome. Hey guys. So yeah, it's my first time here in this city and in this country. My first impression is that there's like a lot of wood everywhere, wooden chairs and wooden airports. So that's kind of different from what we have in Poland. So, so it's kind of interesting. Anyway, like today I'm going to talk about React Native. When I messaged organizers on Twitter quite a few months ago, we were discussing what we could talk about. And that was the topic that was suggested, that we should do a small introduction to React Native, talk about its specifics, how it's working, and how we can start working and writing your apps with it. So the fundamental question will be what the React Native is on a high level. So React Native is a framework for building cross-platform mobile apps. And when it was being created, the principle was that what we wanted was kind of expressiveness and rapid development that we know from web apps, combined with the stability that you get from using native SDKs, like Cocoa, for example, on iOS and other Android APIs. And so, in order to achieve that, they decided to use React as a kind of view engine. Just because React has the nice concept of components and declarative kind of way of describing the user interface that you get. The only difference is that instead of running React in the browser and rendering HTML-like components like div, paragraph, and span, your logic is running inside a JS core, which is an engine that Safari is using for rendering. And there is that concept of a bridge that kind of helps you to write and connect with platform-specific components. And of course, one of the biggest, this is like the selling slogan of React Native. If you will ask someone about React Native, they will gonna tell you React Native is learn once, write everywhere. And this is like very important because usually what people are kind of, what used to be very popular was write once and run everywhere. And React was created with this in mind. And that means that because we have noticed, we have discovered that okay, it's cool to write once and run it everywhere. But the problem, for example, with hybrid apps was that we still wanted to get this kind of very specific user experience that iOS users know and Android users know. These platforms are different, so developers should be able to just write any platform code they want, regardless of whether it's iOS and Android, without actually learning it. They should know the concept, they should know the tools and SDKs, and be able to write it without actually thinking about it. So that's the very important concept of React Native. And because of that, it has a lot of APIs we'll see later that'll help you write this kind of code. Another very important feature is that it has a better developer experience. If you have ever thought about writing mobile app, or if you have ever written mobile app, you probably know the fact that you have run it. Like you have to load it on simulator, you have to compile it, it takes time. Every time you change it, you waste like a minute, for example, just waiting till it recompiles over and over again. So thanks to using React and JS ecosystem, we get quite a lot of interesting things to use that we will see later. And of course, it's native. Like with React Native, you don't build like a mobile web app, HTML app, hybrid app, these kind of things. You just build a fully native app that runs almost as fast as a native app. The only difference is that your logic is still kind of interpreted JavaScript, but that shouldn't matter most of the time. What's important is that the views are rendered natively, so that the interaction, the tapping, the scrolling, everything is native. So that I think that was the most noticeable thing with hybrid apps that people were complaining about. So with that, you get a native interface, and that's kind of the most important thing about it. And it's of course extensible. So you may be wondering that, for example, with React Native, the problem is that you don't want to go all in with it. You want to still build a mobile app because mobile apps were around like on the market for quite a few years, right? They have stable ecosystems, we can bet on them. So you can build iOS and Android app and you're gonna be fine. So with React Native, you can either integrate React Native app into native app or integrate native app into React Native app. I mean, you can kind of combine them in any way you want. They are both kind of interoperable. And for example, companies like Facebook or Airbnb, what they are doing is they are building a native app and they are replacing parts of it with React Native as they kind of develop new features. So for example, with the new Airbnb app, if you have got the update, the first view is native. But if you tap, for example, details of the home, like details of experience, details of whatever, that's React Native. So the main screen is native, but the sub-components and the routing is done totally in React Native. So yeah, let's get started. I assume that probably most of you have never kind of played around with it. So just kind of briefly, let's go through the things that we have to set up. And the kind of agenda that I forgot to say is that we're gonna spend like 15 minutes just talking about specifics, and then the last 10 minutes is going to be kind of crazy demo where I'm trying to kind of make something. Probably it's not gonna break, so that maybe will be fun. So yeah, in order to successfully get up and running, we have to install quite a few things. If you have a Mac, you are already kind of in a win position because you got the iOS setup in place. You have to install Node.js because we're gonna write JavaScript, so ideally you can use Homebrew to get the latest build. You should install Watchman, which is a tool made by Facebook to watch changes in the files. It is used for some kind of developer experience we'll see later. It's not required, but it's going to kind of improve the way your app is working, so it's good to have it. Flow is optional as well. Flow is a kind of static type checking tool made by Facebook as well that allows you to write apps with kind of static typing. It's checked during the runtime, so it helps you to find common bugs and type mismatches. It also has type inference, so you can get the benefits of static typing without actually annotating the objects and variables you got. So it's also worth checking out. And as a last thing and the most important one, you have to install React Native command line tools because we're gonna use them later in order to do everything. So that's the most important thing to have in a project. And so in order to create it, we're just gonna call React Native init, and we're gonna provide it the name of the app we're gonna work. And essentially what it's gonna do is just gonna create an empty package JSON with React Native dependency, and it's gonna npm install or yarn install all the things, and create a simple iOS and Android setup that contains hello world. And then we can benefit from the React Native command line tools that has these two commands, run iOS and run Android. There is quite a lot of things going on here, but it's just an kind of automated process, because normally what you can do still, as I said, React Native is a mobile app, native app, so you can open Xcode and click start. It's gonna work the same. The command line tools are here just to make it faster, speed it up, so that you can work in a single like Atom or Visual Studio Code without having like 5 IDEs open. So it takes like 5 to 10 seconds for the first time, and then you get something which looks more or less like this, and it's welcome to React Native, so it's like a hello world that we have, and starting from this we can start developing the apps that we want. So before we dive deep into these components and kind of see how it all works, let's kind of step back for a second and try to see what actually did happen, because I guess it might be interesting for some of you how it's actually working and why it's working and how it's possible to use React and get native mobile app, because for some of like people, and for me it was crazy when I first heard of it, that you can use JS and get a mobile app without any hybrid things. So I like to referring to React as a kind of better hybrid app, because it still uses JavaScript, but it eliminated the things that were actually not as good with hybrid apps. So the performance back in the day and the lack of native components that was eliminated with the bridge that we will see in a bit, and with the ability to actually render and use native components with React. So this is like a very, very basic architecture. There is, by the way, a reference to this picture if like anyone is wondering about legal stuff. It's very, very bright. Anyway, yeah. So this is like the diagram I found in the internet, and I think it's quite cool. It shows actually the parts, the building blocks of React Native app, and at the bottom you got the iOS and Android specifics. So you got the Swift and Objective-C, which are languages you use for writing iOS app, and Java, C, C++ for Android. And that white part in the middle is the part that describes the React Native architecture. And as you can see, there is the application code that we have already briefly discussed. This is the JavaScript that runs in JS Core. If you are wondering why it's JS Core, like with iOS, it's not easy to embed something different than native built-in Apple things. So Safari is kind of built-in thing. So that's why it's JS Core for one of the reasons. And thanks to Android, I mean on Android we can do pretty much everything we want. So it's kind of shipping with JS Core on Android as well. But if you turn on the Chrome debugger, that we will see later, you are switching the rendering engine from JS Core to V8. So it's like you can pretty much change them, but it's very transparent difference for you. Probably the most notable difference will be when I was, for example, doing for loop on an object, and I was kind of assuming that the order of keys will be the same, and turned out it's not the same. So with V8, it was kind of random, and with JS Core, it was not guaranteed, but it turned out to be in order. So that was the biggest difference that I have noticed so far. So it contains, apart from the application code, it contains platform UI components, and these are the native components that you render. So this is like a view, text input, all these things that you're gonna use. There is a style and layout. So this is like the part that kind of is responsible for the way your application looks like. And platform APIs, native components that you use, for example, to scan a barcode, or I don't know, copy to clipboard something. So starting with the app code, I'm not sure if that's visible, but as just a simple component, React component that has a render method and returns a welcome to React Native text. And at the bottom, it calls app registry register components. So what happens with React Native is that your application can register components, as many components as it wants. By default, it registers only one. So this is like an entry point to your app. We said that a Hello World app can have, like when someone with native code wants to load Hello World app, it's gonna refer to this component. So this is gonna be the root component for a Hello World app. So in most cases, you only want one. But for example, if you have native testing, if you want to snapshot some components without turning on the app, doing automation to click 5 blocks, you can just register, like, I don't know, a text input as another entry point and just directly snapshot it. So that's the alternative that you can use. For now, the takeaway is that you have to register it in order to run it. And as I mentioned already, our application is running inside JS Core, and so that doesn't mean, however, that all the HTML5 APIs and JS APIs are implemented. There is not everything is implemented, and some of the things are replaced. Most importantly, before our application code is executed, it's transpiled with Babel, and we get the ES 2015 plus some extensions from ES 6, ES 7 that are working. And the rest of the things, they usually are supported. But the thing is that with React Native, they are replaced so that they refer to a native stuff. And what that means, for example, is that the fetch component. Normally with web, if you are like doing fetch from inside the web application, you're just calling fetch, and this is some hidden implementation that's done inside the host implementation of the engine, of the JS engine. And for example, the difference here is that we have overridden that fetch with a fetch that's implemented with React Native. What that means is when you call fetch, you are not calling whatever is given to you by JavaScript. In fact, you are calling a native module that's kind of implementing the C++ or C APIs that are available on the platform that you are running. And that's the very, very important difference because, for example, there is a very good example of segment.io. Segment.io is a service that you use to kind of combine the events from your app and then send it to Mixpanel and other services. So it's something that kind of gathers all the events from your app. And they have